Cool. All right, let's start off with our classic segment, Henny or Healthy. We talked earlier. You're gonna go healthy today, right?
For a bit. Let's start with health and see where
Okay.
it
Yeah.
goes. Yeah.
I feel you. I'm also on an empty stomach right now, so I think lining the intestines with a little bit of probiotic would help.
Yeah, and then some Hennessy after that. There's no problems with that. No.
Exactly.
It's a lot of fun.
My guts are already boiling.
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking about this after. I should have probably went with the Greek brand, but
I don't know if they have a Greek brand. And kefir?
No, not kefir, but
Oh.
like maybe like a Chobani probiotic.
Oh, yeah.
Chobani, is that even a Greek brand? Or
No, it's Turkish. Yeah, I know.
They claim
I know.
Greek yogurt.
I know. It's a sensitive subject.
Yeah. Oh, these are fat yogurt shots. All right. You're going to go? Yeah, you.
Yeah, I go whatever the guests go.
So this is first time kefir for all of us, I think.
All of us. Wow.
I've had their like mango smoothie, but I'm sure that's different.
And you got the basic
yeah,
white.
because I wanted to hurt like a shot.
Cheers. You shooting the whole thing?
Yeah.
It's like yogurt. Room temperature yogurt.
Yeah. It's a little cold, but mostly room temp.
What we call in the industry, it's in the danger zone. Have you heard that?
Yeah, because it's the bacteria zone. Yeah.
I can definitely taste the bacteria.
Yeah. Well, that's the draw of probiotics is actually the bacteria.
Yeah,
So
extra
maybe-
bacteria.
Yeah, so we got that extra bacteria. How'd that feel?
Actually, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I kind of
I'll
like
take
it.
it. I'll
It's
take
got a
it.
little sweetness.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps our digestion or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Well, thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Or actually, thank you for having us. We're in your home right now. We're here with Eric Papachristos, and what does that mean?
My great-grandfather was a priest in the village.
Ooh.
His first name was Chris. Father Chris.
Father Chris. Wow.
So they go around the village, hey, Father Chris, and for some reason it stuck. And my real name isn't Eric.
Oh shit.
Yeah. It's Iraklis.
Oh,
Which mean-
stronger.
Huh?
It's a stronger name.
It's a strong name. It means Hercules.
Wow.
And so my legal name is Iraklis, and like every document, if you're gonna steal my social security number,
Yeah.
you got to use that, right?
Right.
But I use the word or the name Eric because when I came to America in 1986, for anyone who's sort of old enough out there, used to be a show called Chips. It was like California Highway Patrol, whatever, and it was these two dudes, police officers on motorcycles, and this guy had long black hair.
Oh shit.
And his name was Puncharello. But his real name, so I would see the credits at the end of the show, Eric Estrada.
Oh.
And like
handsome.
Eric Iraklis. And I was
Yeah.
like, Mom, no one can pronounce Iraklis in America. Can they call me Eric? And she's like, yeah, do whatever you want to do. So that's where I get my name, Eric.
Wow. And so have you always had long hair? Black hair?
From.
So is that guy basically your hero?
He's
Like-
my hero.
Yeah.
I mean, I love motorcycles,
Yeah.
and I love long hair, and and he was kind of like the ladies' man too.
Yeah.
Not that I'm a ladies' man, but
I'm sure you are.
I
Well,
appreciate the ladies.
You actually inspired me to grow out my hair.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I do love the long hair too, but yeah, no. You speaking of television as well, you were on a season of Bachelorette, correct?
Mhm.
Back in the day, buffet.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
looking back at it now, it's amazing. If I could do it all over again, I would have done it differently.
In what sense?
So I got
Were you
on.
there for love, or were you there for like?
I was there for babies, really. I just
Really?
wanted like the one night stand, and
Yeah.
I mean, just it's a 1 out of 25. It's 25 guys in there, right?
Yeah,
So it'd be
that's
nice.
that's a
Oh, the
Let-
reverse.
horrible ratio. It's just the
Oh,
worst. Yeah.
I was about to ask, did you smash? Probably everybody smashed.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. So if you want me to go on, I can go for a couple minutes on
Yeah,
it.
do.
So I opened up my nightclub in 2004.
Mhm.
And a couple years after, there was an article in a local magazine about me. And again, this is 2006, 2007, pre-social media. You guys weren't even born by then. So no social media. And the way that they would scout for reality shows was, these production managers, these scouting people, whatever they're called, they would go around different cities and they would have like open casting calls and stuff like that. So they just happened to be in town. They saw this magazine. It was, I think it was called Improper Bostonian.
Mm.
Back in the day. It was sort of like right next to Barstool Sports when they actually had like a real physical magazine. And so they saw my profile from the nightclub, and so they called my publicist and said, hey, would Eric be interested in interviewing for The Bachelor? And so they called me up. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll yeah, sure. I mean, I don't, didn't necessarily watch the show. I mean, I sort of knew the idea of it.
Yeah.
And so they interviewed me, went really well. Then all of a sudden, and this is when I was actually moonlighting. I had a corporate day job at Ropes and Gray, and then I had my nightclub at night. So my night people didn't know what I was doing during the day, and the day people didn't know what I was doing at night.
And then
So
your wife didn't know you're going on The Bachelorette.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes. She still doesn't know.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. So it was. They're like, "Oh, this is great. Can you come down to LA?" And so they sent out a black car for me. And again, this is 2006, 2007. There was no Uber. So when you have a black car coming and get you, you're like, oh man, I was like 28 years old. And I was like, wow, this is fucking cool.
Yeah.
Flew out to LA. And again, I get off, they flew me business and I flew down. I mean, I take the escalators down out of LAX and they have this guy holding a placard with my name on it, Papachristos. It's like, shit, man. I feel like you're starting to feel like a Hollywood celebrity.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was interviewing for The Bachelor, and they did that for me about 4 times. I flew out to LA, and again, I'm under super strict NDA, can't talk about anything to anybody. But they'd fly me out on a Friday night. I'd be back, Sunday during the day. It was like I'd go out there and just have such a great time. I had a handler, that was really really cool stuff. Long story short, after my 4 flights down there, they call me and they say, "Hey, great interviewing you, blah blah blah, but we're going to go with the other guy." Awesome. I don't care. I was like, it was like such a great experience for me. And they said, we didn't pick you because you were too ethnic.
Damn. Yeah, because that was back in the day.
Yeah. Imagine saying that today.
Yeah.
Like.
You cancel immediately.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Yeah. And also Greeks being ethnics is an interesting take too, because I think these days that's just like a white guy.
A white guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're very, as a lot of sort of nationalists, is that a word?
Yeah.
A lot of, even like micro countries, and not that Greece is a micro country, but, we're very, proud of our religion and our culture, our language and sort of our way, our history and all of that. And Italians are the same way. Yeah. I think in the world today, I think there's a little bit too much of vanilla. I mean, I understand. Yeah. I mean, I used to get bullied in school because I didn't speak English when I came to America. And I don't, I look back, I don't think that was I don't want to say it wasn't a bad thing, but it builds character. It is
similar. Bring back bullying. That's what he always says.
Yeah. It was like the real deal.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you assimilate to the culture and you're like, yeah, I have to learn English and I have to, because it's a different culture.
Right.
Anyway, so that was that. I was like, cool, no problem, Bachelor. Awesome. I go back to my sort of day job and my night job.
Back to the wife.
Back to the wife. Yeah. Yeah. She was like, where'd you go all this time? I was like, don't worry about it. I was going out for In-N-Out burgers.
Yeah. Definitely In-N-Out something.
Oh, yeah. That was good.
Yeah, thanks.
And a couple months later, they called me and they said, hey, Eric, the guy that we picked over you, this guy, Brad Womack, which is like, he's as American as they come. Texas guy, blonde, long hair, owns bars. Like he was like sort of the opposite of him. He's like my antagonist.
Yeah.
You know? And they said, oh, but the girl that is now going to become the Bachelorette that he didn't pick, she's Greek American.
Wow.
Do you want to be on the show as one of the 25 guys? I was like, no.
Yeah, way worse. Way worse idea.
Yeah. Let me go compete with those 24 dudes, over a girl. And I'm so not that guy.
Yeah.
I'm very like low key. I'm kind of like in the corner. And they come out. I was like, nope, no, thank you. So they're like, we'll send you the contract. Take a look at it and let us know. And I had it on my desk at the nightclub for months. And then my partner saw it one day. It was like 6 days before filming. He's like, hey, what's this? It's like, oh, da-da-da. Told him the story. He's like, are you going to go? I'm like, no, I'm not going to fucking go. He's like, fucking go. Go. He's like, opportunity of a lifetime. He's like, are you serious? Like, yeah. So I ended up just on a whim going. Anyway, I can tell you like even more details after that. But to your question, would I do it again? This is before social media. So I kind of like that. So people sort of know that I was on the show and most don't.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. But, that's a big stigma.
Yeah.
Positive or negative. Like everyone's like
become known for a thing, like especially reality TV. Right?
Yeah.
That's like brands you. Yeah.
Because ultimately in reality TV, you're not who you think that you are. You are who they want you to be,
Yeah.
right? Because they got tens of millions of viewers and tens of millions of dollars behind it. They're not going to, if there's 25 guys and one girl in a room, maybe 2 guys are going to hit on her. I mean, statistically speaking, that's how things work. There's no way 25 guys are going to go after a girl, but they get you liquored up. And the last thing I'll say about it, I can say a lot of things, but the last thing I'll say for now is this is how scripted it becomes. Hey, Christian, do you want to get married to a nice girl?
Yeah, but I've been here for a little while, and I think I'm falling for one of the other male contestants. That's how it would go.
Okay, great, great. So this is 2007, so we're not, that open yet.
Yeah, you can't be gay in 2007.
No. It was definitely, it was still taboo. And so you'd say, I don't know. They're like, well, okay, great. But like, she like really is into you. She like loves tall guys with black hair, glasses, and Asian. They're like, she was just telling us in the back room, like she's fucking crazy about you.
Yeah, I'm in.
Right?
Yeah.
So then next thing you know, you're like, yeah, I'd go on a date with her. Okay. Now say it with like more excitement, right? And like next thing
I'd marry this girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they clip that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're out. And then you're like, what the fuck did I just say?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
We should start doing that for our guys. Just trying to bait you into saying some racist shit.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I actually think that's why long form podcasts are kind of cool, because you actually get to hear the beginning of the story, the middle, and the end, unlike reality TV. Anyway, that's my beginning. That's the Bachelor.
That's cool, man. But I mean, that's one of those things that you've always been handsome, yeah.
Yeah.
2 things you've been handsome and Greek.
Yes, yeah.
And do you have any tips for people who weren't born either Greek or handsome to become one of the two?
I think the handsome thing. Thank you, I appreciate it. But actually, I'm not I don't actually care about that. Like sort of generally speaking, I would rather pride myself on things that I can actually do, like work on. So like, even if a girl says, hey, you're a better looking guy, whatever, which I don't get it often, but if they do, it's like, it sort of like rolls off my shoulder because I had nothing to do with it. It's just my mom and my dad and the current environment that we're in. Maybe this look, a big nose, is cool, right? But maybe in 5 years from now, it's not. It's kind of like, girls with big butts. It's cool now, but in 5 years, it might not be.
It's going away now, actually, apparently.
Yeah, now it's the flat stomach.
Yeah. A lot of the girls who got the BBLs are now reversing it because of these influencers, Kim K's, like they're taking Ozempic. It's the stick thing now.
Wow.
So we're swinging the other direction.
Yeah. That's what I just kind of keep it simple, man. I'm like, au naturel.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you're very stylish as well, though. Is that something that you picked up, or have you always been into fashion? Or
I did get voted on in high school as best dressed.
Okay.
So maybe it did start at an early age. And I think a lot of me, who I am, personality or what I do and whatever, is actually when I was in America, no girls didn't like me.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy doesn't speak English. Like, I didn't play bass. I remember playing kickball in like 7th grade. I'm like, okay, so I get it. I kicked the ball, but where the fuck am I running to?
Yeah, it's like,
first base, second base. Like, so if I'm on the outfield and I catch the ball, do I send it to first or just like, anyway, so I tried so hard just being American. So I think kind of being stylish, or again, I don't necessarily consider myself stylish, but I'm always like, how do I just want to look like everyone else.
Oh, really?
I just want to fit in. I want to fit in. I want to fit in. And I think that's sort of like where it comes from.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So I guess like seeing your general style, like it's very, I would say modern. It's definitely more, I think, dressed up than your average Bostonian. But maybe in the people you hang out with all dressed similar to you now. But I do feel like you have kind of a GQ look about you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Again, I'll take that to heart because that's something that I can I work on. I worked in corporate finance, and so the khakis. I mean, back then there was khakis and the loafers and the Patagonia vests. Like that's the uniform that I just want to stay as far away from as possible. So in the restaurant world, again, part of me having long hair. Not that I necessarily think about it consciously, but I went to my lawyer's office like 10, 20 years, maybe 15 years ago. And he had a client, big law firm in Boston. And I remember like in the background, there was like an older dude who was at the board table and a whole bunch of lawyers around him. And he was clearly the business owner. He had hired these lawyers for whatever reason. And he was just wearing whatever he wanted to wear had whatever hairstyle that he wanted to have. And I was like, that's like, I just, I have long hair because
Yeah.
it's shunned upon in corporate,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
or have facial hair, like a clean shaven and then, whatever cut. And so I just want to be me. So
Yeah.
if you see me out in the street, like, this is me, or like, no one's telling me what to do and how to dress and all that. So yeah, I might wine.
Yeah, you want to do wine?
Yeah, I'll do wine.
Yeah, do whatever you
Is
want.
that all right?
Yeah, totally up to you. When we say Henny, we just mean just anything alcoholic. Yeah.
Yeah, make sure we hit our macro protein count for
Exactly. I think that's one of our core missions of the podcast actually is to promote healthier habits in the restaurant industry. I do find that I don't think you have any issue with this because you seem exceptionally healthy, but a lot of people do tend to really abuse their bodies in the industry, as you've probably seen.
It's constant. It's a constant conscious effort.
Yeah.
And it's a lot tougher. I go on these food trips and sometimes I'll document them. And, most of the times I don't.
Right.
I was just in New York to meet with designers. And on the surface level, it sounds great. But, okay, I'm in New York. I got 2 nights there. How many restaurants can I go hit? Okay, let me go hit 6 restaurants.
Yeah.
And, you're going to eat something fried. Like, or you're going to eat something that's like heavy.
Or dessert.
Yeah. And it just fucking adds up.
Yeah.
And it is really, really tough. Thankfully I don't necessarily drink all that often.
Yeah.
So, that's an easy decision.
That definitely helps.
Yeah.
What are other strategies for you for kind of like either refusing certain dishes or eating partial dishes? Like, how do you? Because you want to. I'm the same way. I want to try as much as possible for either research or content or whatever. So when you're ordering all the dishes that you want to try, do you always finish it? Do you take it to go? Do you just like you have to consciously be like, you know what, I'm still hungry here, but I know I want to eat more in an hour at a different place. So do I just stop? Like, what's your strategy?
So typically we'll order, and I'm not exaggerating, almost everything on the menu.
Yeah, I can see that.
So everything will hit the menu and everything will hit the table. And, you'll finish probably about a quarter of everything.
Yeah.
And so even with that said, there's still a lot of food that's going to go to waste. We typically won't take food home. Not that we don't believe in it. You should, but we're going to the next place for dinner.
Too.
Yeah. So a lot of food goes to waste, but also having 20 dishes in front of you and eating a quarter of those 20 dishes, that's still like having 5 dishes.
Yeah.
That's like
crazy.
a lot of fucking food.
Yeah.
Let's take this thing down and get the protein count in.
Cheers, people. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Kaboom, baby, kaboom.
Whiteboard Joe.
Okay.
This is from Burgundy.
Nice.
And one of our investors owns, I think, 3 vineyards out there.
Okay.
And so he sent us a whole bunch of samples.
Lovely.
And we're carrying his wine, obviously, at the restaurant. So
nice. What is it? We'll mention it.
Gabby.
Okay.
Chateau Gabby.
Chateau Gabby. Shout out to Chateau Gabby. I'm not a very educated wine drinker. I want to get more into it, but it's very intimidating to me.
Yeah.
Are you more a wine guy?
No, I'm actually, I'm an everything guy except beer. I don't do beer.
Yeah.
I like wine. I've studied wine enough to order it at a restaurant, and that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a rabbit hole. Like, it's tough. And actually, the tough thing about wine is that you got to drink it, right? Like, there's endless amount of wines.
Right.
But in order for you to appreciate it and really understand, okay, this is from this region, this side of the hill that gets the sun in the morning, not at night. So then, the grape is juicier or whatever it is. That's a lot of geeking out. It's a lot of like understanding geography, understanding a lot of vocabulary too. So, I've tried to dive in, and I'm just, I can't.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I can't.
Very intimidating. Well, thank you, and
cheers.
Cheers, Andrew.
Cheers.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, that's quite lovely.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot.
So tell me about it.
Well, it tastes a little bit like
yogurt.
Yeah, there's a lingering yogurt pre and post taste.
Yeah,
but it is nice.
Yep. Yeah.
But it's clean. It's crispy. I'd probably give it like a 8 out of a chuggability scale,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean that thing is easy.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Not very minimal gasoline taste,
Yep.
which I think I usually tend to dislike the gasoline taste
Yep.
in my wines.
Yep.
Um,
So you're a lower ABV type of guy. The
yeah,
gasoline is the
yeah,
alcohol.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That's very good.
Mm-hmm. Any flavors?
I would say predominantly like white grape juice. But other than that, I mean, if I were to maybe like a fresh white paint on
Mm-hmm.
a
Yep.
on like a luxury apartment
Yep.
building.
Yep. I was gonna say it's a little bit like a jumbo 747
Oh,
flying over Istanbul.
Istanbul.
Yep.
Okay, interesting. I've never been to that region. Do you
Yep.
guys have beef with the Turkish people? Like, because there seems to be some tension whenever we mention different yogurt brands. Apparently, so Chobani and Kefir are both Turkish brands that rep Greek yogurt.
Yep.
Is that something that you feel has been stolen from you?
No, so kefir is not actually a lot of our. So what's interesting about food
Yeah.
is I think definitely one. It's for me, it's an indication of culture, right? Your mom or grandma cook, or your dad or grandpa?
Everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
And whatever they make is like the best that they, right? Is it?
I think my grandma, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Mom's
so
kind of bad. She's getting better.
well, she's probably got another 40 years.
Yeah.
Or at least another 30 years, right?
Yeah.
So, your grandmother's has been perfecting something more than we will ever perfect anything. I mean, I'll work for an X amount of years and I'll perfect my work for an X number of years. But nourishing other people, you do that. And again, particularly the older cultures, like particularly if you're a female, young girls in the villages of Greece, start to cook when they're like, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. They're with grandma or with mom in the kitchen and da 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 da. And then again, in sort of the traditional patriarch, family, the guy goes out to work and the woman is sort of, nourishing and taking care of the family. And, and again, in today's sort of very woke culture, that patriarch society is a very sort of like, boohoo, all of that stuff. But, what nourishing does, and I appreciate it now more than ever because I live by myself, my little bachelor pad here. It's a brand new condo. I've moved in here 6 months ago. I don't even know a single button in the oven. My fridge, if I open it right now, you'll laugh your face off. Microwave, I know how to use because I'll warm stuff up. So then who's nourishing me? Who's giving me the food that I need in this body to wake up the next day? It's not McDonald's. I don't eat McDonald's, but it's some restaurant that has a lot of fat and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But if I had my grandmother here, my God, all that food would have been straight from the garden, and just all the love in the world. And so for me, food is culture. I don't know how we get down this rabbit hole, but
that's about Turkish people.
Turkish people. So a lot of our food in Greece and many countries, food is a history, is a map of history. So a lot of our foods actually do come from east of Greece, Turkey, and the Middle East. That's because they were under the Ottoman Empire for the last 500 years. Greece's independence was, I don't know, like 1921 or something like that. So prior to that, they were under Turkish Ottoman Empire. So, a lot of stuff came over from the east, like the baklava, right? So a lot of Greeks will say, well, baklava is Greek. Well, I think if you look at the, etymology of baklava, it's probably, Turkey, Syria, Afghanistan, all of those places where the climate is dry. You're not getting, fruits and vegetables because it's such a, dry climate there. So Greece is actually like right on that line where we play with Europe, but we also play with, so do we have a beef with Turkey? It's just sort of like most of it, 99% is probably ancestral. Actually my grandmother was exiled out of Turkey. So she grew up in Turkey, in a Greek region of Turkey, through the, what's it called? My God. I don't know. The Turks were like, get the fuck out of my country.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So they killed, millions of Greeks. And,
genocide?
Genocide, yeah. The Greek and the Armenian genocide happened sort of at the same time. The Turks were like, get the Armenians out of here, get the Turks out of here. Anyway, so is there anything going on today? No. Actually, Turkish people are some of the nicest people, and so are Greeks. So it is a little bit.
So it's like sticky but not active right now. Yeah, I mean that was also a very educated answer, but do you think like if you were to ask like a random person, they would like, do Greeks and Turkish get along? Like for example, I'm Vietnamese, and there's a lot of that cultural nuance with the Chinese as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think most Vietnamese would be like, yeah, fuck the Chinese,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's like almost like a big brother type thing.
Yeah.
And all this other stuff. They're always trying to like bully us. But I don't know if that's the case. But a lot of our obviously culture and food is also from China.
From China. Yeah, like there's this guy, which I fucking love this dude. His name is Honor, Onur. He owns Cocoa Beat. Do you know Cocoa Beat?
Is that like a?
It's a vegan
fitness class.
No,
Oh, okay.
close.
Oh, yeah.
It's a vegan juice bar and like sort of a food place. They have one here at City Hall. I believe they still have this one here, and they have one in Wellesley Center. And this guy is, I mean, he's an entrepreneur, restaurateur, so I love that. He comes into my restaurants all the fucking time. He supports the shit out of my restaurants. He is just the nice, he's probably a few years younger than me, the nicest fucking dude ever. And he's born and raised in Turkey. He's been in America probably 10 years. And I brought my mom to Porto last summer, and he ended up being there. And again, this sort of kind of goes back. I was like, oh, Mom, he's Turkish. So because my grandmother was exiled out of Turkey back in the early 1900s, my mom speaks Turkish. But I've never spoken to my mom in Turkish. I don't understand a single word in Turkish. But my mom and my grandmother use Turkish as sort of like they don't want anyone else to know what's going on.
Secret language.
Secret language, yeah. So like my poor dad, every time they talk trash about my dad, it was always in Turkish, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little sensitive stuff. No, I'm just kidding. But my mom was speaking Turkish to this dude like fluently at Porto. I was like, like I've known my mom my whole life. I'm like, you speak that much fucking Turkish? Anyway, no. I mean, fuck the Turks, but we love it.
Okay, cool. I love that. Okay, and that's what we're gonna clip out.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Just fuck the Turks.
Yeah.
But I mean, from everything you've been saying, I feel like I have a very limited experience with Greek people. Growing up, my town was more Italian Irish as far as like the Boston kind of demographic goes. But from the limited experience, it does seem like a lot of Greek like upbringing is similar, especially in America, is similar to Asian American upbringing in the sense that your parents probably love taking care of you through food. That's sort of like a love language. They probably push you to excel academically, and they also probably are a little racist. Is that? Would you say that's like kind of accurate?
Yes, I think the racist part is probably the one that I want to say probably no.
Okay.
My mom was when we came to America. My mom was a Boston public school teacher in Roxbury for 30 years. So she sort of grew up in that community. I think Greeks back in the day were probably Greeks or any culture were racist, not because they didn't like other races, but maybe they did.
Yeah.
But if you go to East Boston now, there's a large Hispanic community, right? Like super large Hispanic community. But back in the 80s and 70s, when the border process was a lot easier, anyone can come into the country. We'll give you a green card. You just sort of like fill out the application, right? You don't sort of like come in any which way that you can. But so there was a process to come into America. And the way that you would come, like Rosendale, for instance, had a huge Greek population, nothing like East Boston. Because what would happen, right? Like you'd be the first one to come to America and you'd like find a place in Rossi. You go to Rossi and then a cousin or someone else from the village in Greece is like, fuck it, I'm going to the States too. All right, where are you going to go? I'm like, I don't know. Well, listen, your cousin Christian's, he's in Boston. He's in this place called Rosendale. Go find him. And boom, boom, boom. So you have these sort of like micro cities in each city. And so they all sort of were all together. Like melting the pot wasn't like such a popular thing. And Greeks with diners in New York, like they were the only ones that ran diners. That was their thing. They came to America and they just ran diners. They ran diners because when they were immigrants, their first job was go wash dishes. Prior to that was the Italians. Come to America, go wash dishes.
Right.
And by that time, the Italians have sort of went one level up, right? It's like every generation gets sort of higher and higher and gets away from, hate to use this word in my industry, but sort of like the slave labor, right? And so that's why our kitchens today are predominantly Latin speaking, right? It's the first thing, you're coming from Central South America. What's the first thing you got to do, like to earn money? Go work. Everyone can wash a dish, and sort of like that comes, from that sort of immigration process. There's no Italians in our kitchen. There's no Greeks in our kitchen. There's no, I don't know, Swedish people in our kitchens. But anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so I think like New York Greek diners in Massachusetts, I think a lot of Greeks are known for running like pizza shops or of that type, right? And that's sort of your origin story too, right? In a sense.
Diner. I had a
Oh
diner.
yeah. No, I mean, well, your dad's, right?
Well, my dad had one, and actually, that's how we got started. Like my dad, still to this day, does not know how to fucking cook anything.
Yeah.
It was just like typical greasy spoon diner, crack an egg on the grill and scramble it and give it to the guest.
Yeah.
So that's how I did get started. I was washing dishes. Critically fucking important, and we can talk about that, like how important it is to wash a dish, like to become an entrepreneur and to be at where I am today. And we can talk about that if that's of interest.
Yeah, of course.
But so I learned, about a diner and sort of like cracking eggs. So when I came into Boston, I was 17. I went to Suffolk in my undergrad and started bartending, blah, blah, blah. Opened up my nightclub. And when I was 26, I was like, all right, I got fucking nightclubs. I'm going to open up like a million of them. And I was coming home at 4 a.m. I was like, I don't want to do any more nightclubs. Like the lifestyle is not for me. The money and the ROI, it's amazing. But I was like, shit, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to keep going, but I don't want it to be a 4 a.m. sort of gig. I was like, all right, what do I do? Go do a diner. Opposite.
Yeah.
But also kind of going back to my roots a little bit, right? So I bought a diner called Victoria's Diner in a place where no white guy would go to open a diner, Mass and Cass.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I bought a diner for pennies on the dollar, and I sold it for 10x what I bought it. I quadrupled the business in like 4 years. But the reason that Greeks don't own a lot of diners anymore, or why there aren't a lot of diners, sort of like a dying breed, is because, again, that sort of generation, first generation comes to America, they go wash dishes, they have their kids, and they sacrifice their lives for their kids and, push their kids to go to school, get a better job, blah, blah, blah. And then when it comes down to it, and actually my father said this to me. I was working at Harvard University before I opened up the nightclub. I had 2 masters. I was like, Dad, I'm going to quit and go open up a nightclub. He goes, if you get into this business, you will never have my support. And actually gave me the motivation to actually do it. I was like, watch this shit.
Right.
Anyway, but that's why, because the business is so fucking tough. And still to this day, I mean, I get, people reach out to me on a weekly basis. I want to open up a restaurant. What do you think? What do I think? Fucking run. Are you fucking nuts? And it was told to me early on in my career, before I started, everyone that I talked to, run the fucking other way. Right. And so if I were to look at myself going back 20 years when I first started, would I still do what I do? Yeah. But I'm in a very interesting space, and we can talk about that too.
So it wasn't like you took the leap in a sense, because as you mentioned earlier, you did the moonlighting thing for a while. Was that your way of kind of hedging the bet and mitigating the risk of everybody saying just don't do it, but you were like, I really just want to, so let me just dip my toes in? So that's how you did it, right?
That's exactly it. I talk about that a lot, and like if I lecture, if I talk in front of people or a panel, always talk about that, mitigating the risk.
Right.
As an entrepreneur, you're going to have to go through this, jump over this abyss, the abyss of becoming, the risk of an entrepreneur. The other side is your company and success, and where you're standing is sort of, where your current state of, you got a job or things are steady. And so how big is that gap? Some people just take a fucking running sprint, blindfolded, and they just try to go to the other side, and most of them fail. And again, this doesn't apply necessarily just to restaurants. It applies to any industry, become an entrepreneur. So for me, it's always like, bridge that gap, make that gap as tight as you can. And for me, it was like, I have an income that comes in from the law firm. I want to be, I have the income now that comes in from the nightclub. I want to do more, but I don't want to lose this income and just sort of like risk it all. And still, even to this day, the way that we, build our company, it's, it's a lot of risk mitigation. I haven't closed any restaurants. I know I will someday. I talk about that. I'm nervous as fuck about it. And it's actually what keeps me up at night. But again, it's always like that risk mitigation.
Right. Fascinating.
It's crazy. Every guest has told the same thing. Do not open a restaurant.
Yeah, don't do it. But I think this is the first time that someone has talked about this tactic of risk mitigation, because it usually is, I think, a lot more all or nothing. And I think that idea is very romantic, kind of the burn the ships, like save nothing for the swim back kind of thing,
Yep.
where it's like just take the jump. And I
Mhm.
think that's a inspiring story all the
Mhm.
time. But I wonder from your perspective, and a lot of people think too that like, or they say you hear from speakers that they say like, if you have a plan B, you're not fully committing to plan A, and that actually reduces the chance of success
Yep.
for your endeavor.
Mhm.
But you did it, and you did it very successfully
Mhm.
by having sort of not a plan B, but just a fallback or a safety net. So, what are your thoughts on that whole thing? Like, would you have done it all or nothing, or do you? Yeah,
No,
so you go,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
just
From
stand
the
by.
risk standpoint,
Yeah.
I would still have done it the way that I did. You know, when I first started opening up the nightclub, I mentioned I was 26. There's no fucking way a 26-year-old can open up a nightclub. I saved
Yeah.
$40,000, and I approached the people that I used to bartend for in the nightclub, and I said, "Hey," and these guys were multimillionaires, had a private jet and all this stuff. And I said, "Hey, I'm going to open up a bar. I'm not going to compete with you guys, but what do you guys think?"
Hmm.
And they were like, well, they didn't say it this way,
Yeah.
but they're like, "You're a fucking moron."
Yeah.
And circumstances ended up becoming what they were. They actually opened up a new club and they asked me to partner with them. I was 30 years and I am 30 years younger than them. So I think for them, they were like, listen, we have this guy who's worked for us for 8 years. Like, I didn't take a weekend off. Like, my friends were getting married and going out to clubs and meeting girls and traveling. And here I was every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, bartending, whether it was busy when it was slow. And also, there's other bars that opened up in that 8-year time frame that I worked for these guys that I could have gone to and I would have made better money and better connections, so on and so forth. But I stayed loyal. It's probably that immigrant mentality, but it was that loyalty that they probably saw. And they were like, okay, this 26-year-old guy is working his fucking ass off. He's proven to us in 8 years that this guy's a hustler or he's a hard worker. Let's bring him on to open up the next place. So again, that is important. And I'm 46, and I have friends who I go back almost 30 years in this business, and they were bartenders then, and they're still bartenders. They're chasing the next opening.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm going to make more money at the next bartending, at the next
Right,
restaurant
right.
that's going to open. And every 6 months, they're fucking jumping around. And so there's so much value, I believe, in that loyalty. It's almost like a relationship, and I'm not a relationship expert.
Yeah.
I'm a divorced man. But you realize what makes a relationship work is the hard work that you put in, right? So there's good days and there's bad days, but fucking put in the work.
Right.
Don't jump for the next best thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of entrepreneurs do.
Yeah. Wow, a lot of places we can go from there.
Yeah.
A lot of directions we can take this. I think I want to come back to a couple things. I want to come back to relationships. I want to come back to maybe your own relationships. But something you said stuck out, which is like you really sacrificed a lot during that time period. And again, I'm going to come back to this point of you being a handsome man because I hope if I keep saying it, by the end of the night, you'll fall in love with me. But but I do find like it's rare, I think, to find good-looking people who don't take that as their kind of avenue to success, right? And you probably had a lot of opportunity when you were younger to go out to the clubs, right? Meet women, right? And instead you chose to work and to grind and to build your own businesses. What is it that motivated you from that age? And is it still the same thing that's motivating you now?
Well, I think if I was talking to like Esther Perel or some psychologist like Jordan Peterson, I think I'd sort of go down a different path. But I think if I go early on, coming to America, and I don't think I've ever really thought about this. It just came to me as you said that. My thing was just be like everybody else, be like everybody else, be like everybody else. And no girls wanted, like all my friends started dating, like, dating or kissing, whatever they're doing, right? Like whatever, holding hands, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. And I was like, no one even looked at me like, who's the fucking weird Greek kid in the corner? Like, I played soccer, played a lot of soccer because that was the cool thing in my town. And I was like, all right, I'm going to focus and be a really good fucking soccer player, really good soccer player. And I was actually. But I think that was the positive rewards that I got. It's like, okay, your looks, you're not getting any girls, right? And and that's important. I think it's important for me to have a partner, have a relationship. My parents married 50 plus years, so I've been around beautiful relationships my whole life, but nobody wanted to date me because of my looks. So I was like, all right, looks, throw that out the fucking window.
Wow.
That has nothing. No, nobody's. You're not a good looking guy or whatever. Like I don't necessarily think that, but
Yeah.
but like, but you're a good soccer player. Oh, you're starting to get attention by being good at X.
Right.
And so for me, that is really the motivator. And so I still to this day, what I really pride myself on is, I don't know if you guys read the 4 Agreements. It's like a book that's like a staple in my goddamn library. But like, be impeccable with your word. Like that to me is like, if I tell you 6:30, I mean, I was running late, but that's Amtrak, man. That was fucking Amtrak. But like, you know, impeccable with your word.
Right.
You know, don't let anyone, you know, because you start to like bag out on things and whatever, and like, you know, you start to lose credibility. I think one of the things that I have right now in the industry, and I'll just talk internally in my own company, I think it's credibility. You know, my investors, my partners, they don't look at me as this guy is fucking great. He's a genius. He's handsome. They definitely don't think that stuff, but they're like, this kid, 46-year-old, when he says something, he does it.
Right.
And he goes all in. And so I think that to me is like super important.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I did have a lot of, you know, as I started you know, so my senior year in college, something happened. I was like varsity soccer, like every fucking girl.
Yeah.
Every girl in high school wanted to date me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is this shit, dude? What the fuck? But again, I was like, oh, now I'm committed to soccer. And then I got into school and I was like, I'm committed to work. So that has always kind of taken priority up until, so I'm divorced. But I got married. I met my ex-wife in 2019. And I think earlier that year, or maybe the year after 2018, you know, I think I probably had 4 or 5 restaurants at the time. And I spoke to a group of Greek American entrepreneurs, or I should say business owners. They were all like 70 years old plus.
Oh, wow.
So it's a really great Greek community. And it's an all men's sort of thing. And so I speak and tell them like my whole story. And this old gentleman comes up to me after, super nice, very complimentary. And he goes, oh, awesome story. Great stuff. And he looks at me and he goes, who are you doing this for? And that was like my, oh, fuck moment. Like, yeah, like who the fuck am I doing this for? So actually last week, we were supposed to do our podcast. Was it Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah.
Right?
Monday.
And I didn't tell you this, but I had strep throat. Did I tell you that?
You said you were really sick. I didn't know it was strep.
I didn't either. Tuesday morning, I was like on my deathbed. I'm like, I'm going to fucking die. I'll see you guys later.
Jesus.
And luckily I didn't have the podcast because you guys would have all had strep throat now. But I was going to say about my strep throat, which was amazing. No, on Tuesday morning, I was, you know, I wasn't on my deathbed, but I was like, had to go to urgent care. I'm like, fuck this. But I had this thought that went in my head that I'm like, you know what? If I die right now, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
Like I've done everything that I've wanted to do. And if I die, fuck it, so be it. It's not a good perspective in life, because if I had a wife, I would have been like, oh, man, I gotta fucking stay strong for her. And blah, blah. If I had a kid or kids, I'm like, I gotta stay strong for them. So going back to my sacrifice, like this business has sacrificed the fuck out of my personal life.
Yeah.
And still.
Do you think your marriage didn't work out because you were working so much, or was it just other things?
No, it was other things. You know, probably. I'm an amazing guy. I was an amazing husband. No. I think the reality was for me to take responsibility and not having experience in relationships. And again, I'll just sort of blame my work, right? Like I didn't want to commit. I remember I had a really great relationship even years before that. And this woman, I was in my 20s. This woman like wanted to marry me. And, you know, she asked. I was like, no.
Wow.
I was like, no. I was doing my second master's. I had like 2 jobs. Like, I was like day job, grad school, and night job. And I had a girlfriend, and she was like so nice, so supportive. And she's like, let's get married. And I was like, I can't. I need to be financially secure, because I saw how hard my parents struggled in life, as every immigrant family does. I was like, when I'm ready to get married and have kids, I want to make sure that I can go to soccer practice for my kids. You know, my dad couldn't go to all my soccer practices because he had the diner and he had to work. So I want to be there for my kids. So that mentality. So I was like, again, just putting my personal life aside, focus on work, focus on work. And I think ultimately this is the biggest challenge that we have in this industry is that, there was an article in Boston Common the other day about me, and I loved how she sort of finished off the piece. She said, Eric will continue working from 9 to 5 and then 5 to 9. And that's like literally what I do.
Yeah.
I'm up usually 5:30 in the morning, and I'll go hard till about 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And, my cortisol level is probably through the roof, because I deal mostly with lawyers, attorneys, developers, research, whatever. And that's like the 9 to 5 hours, because those are the hours that they work.
Right.
But then my staff begins at 5 o'clock. So now I got to be engaged with them from 5 p.m. to, whatever.
Yeah.
I do have exceptional business partners. Like, again, we can talk about that ad nauseum. But the sacrifice of why my marriage didn't work out, I'll take responsibility and say that, it was my inexperience in marriage and in relationships for such a long time. It wasn't for it wasn't for that I was working too much, because I think I can balance
that.
Yeah.
Because you've been balancing that forever.
Yeah.
But I guess the inexperience in relationships, so when that in high school or whenever it was, when you had that switch where all of a sudden you had all the options, usually a guy would just take the options, right? But what about your life at the time or whatever? Did you resist, or did you actually have a phase where you were just like, let me just do?
Who's going to watch this podcast? So we want to be honest?
We can always edit if you don't want it.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I think there's a famous quote out there, and I don't know what it is, but it's something around like...
I love that line. Just to end there.
Yeah, just end it there. There's a famous quote out there. Something in regards like choices is like some sort of an illusion, right? And I remember I was like I had this crush on my high school sweetheart. And this girl was like such a nice girl. She was an athlete and like a really, really nice girl.
You still think about her sometimes?
No.
Okay.
No.
That was a test. Pedophilia.
No. She's an amazing... I mean, I don't even know what she's doing, but last I sort of was connected with her was probably even 20 years ago. She's got a family, and kids, and all that stuff. But finally, it was my senior year. I was like on the varsity team. I was like fucking kicking ass. And I was at a party, and she was there, and I approached her. She wasn't like Mrs. Popularity, but she was a beautiful girl, like solid girl's girl. And I asked her out, and she said yes. I was like, get the fuck out of here. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So I think I dated her for like 2 months, and then all these options started to come in. And that fucked with me.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. I don't know what the quote is. I think I've heard something of a similar nature, which is like choice is an illusion, or like
or free will doesn't exist.
Yeah, but I think the point that you're trying to make though is that like options is kind of like that can kill your happiness because you're thinking about what could be, right? It's the grass is greener thing. Like and it goes back to your point earlier about relationships being work. I think like, I've been in a relationship for 4-ish years now, and like
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, I absolutely love her and everything, but it's like there are times when it can be easy for you to just like have other options or to talk to other women, and making that conscious effort I think is what makes the relationship stronger and more beautiful. And I think like that's as a young guy, so that's very hard to know, right? So like that's probably what was going on with you in high school.
Yeah.
So.
There are always hot women in your area.
What's interesting is when I'm around business people, we talk business a lot, and it's like I love it. It's like an expert. Like I don't even have to think about it. Right? It's just like it's like second nature to me. However, with my friends, I love to get deep on the personal side. Love to get deep, and not just so much about me, but sort of like to ask questions that can evoke some different answers that you may not have thought about. Not necessarily for you, but with my friends, I'm a big disciple of Tony Robbins.
Oh yeah,
and I spent a whole bunch of years with him. I actually traveled the world with him for a year, and went to his house, and it was like really just fucking cool. Anyway, so I think I enjoy that side of conversations as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So like when you're talking about relationships, like I can get down deep in that
Yeah,
stuff too.
let's spend more time there then before we move
If you
on.
want,
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
because
yeah.
I think it's well, a lot of it is too like what will make you excited to talk about too.
Hmm.
Right? If you're talking about business all day, let's stay away from it until you get
Yeah,
drunker.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I think that what happens in our industry is, we were just talking about it, is this interrelation of personal life and are we taping right now? Are we listening?
Yeah, we're good. We're
Okay,
good.
good.
Basically,
Um,
work relationships. Essentially, it's very
n-
easy. Or is that
no,
what
no,
you're
no,
saying?
no. Actually, we have such a strict policy.
Oh, okay, okay.
That's like such a hard line for me. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we're here to work. We're here to work.
Okay.
Um, but thinking how people in our business manage their
Mhm.
relationships, and a good example is actually my partner, Chef Jody Adams.
Yeah.
She is a powerhouse, and I think more importantly, was a powerhouse in a time and age where women were not allowed to.
Mhm.
It was all about the men in the kitchen and all of that stuff. And she says this story about when she got best chef in America on Food and Wine magazine. Like this is like biggest award out there.
Mhm.
And when they came to photograph the restaurant and the plate, Jody was, I don't want to say forceful is not the right word, and she can explain the story better, but she was like, "Oh, don't you want a picture of me?"
Mhm.
And they said something like, "Oh, we already have a picture of a woman."
Damn.
And not only is Jody an amazing culinary and understands flavors that are like way above my pay grade.
Mhm.
I've been eating with her professionally for like 14
Eating
years.
professionally. That's a great. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but it's that stuff from Jody that I really appreciate. But we have a young chef in our company right now who's extremely talented. She's definitely Jody's mentee,
Mhm.
and I look at her, and again, I'm the first guy to separate professional and personal. Like I can hire my brother and fire him. I can
Yeah.
hire anyone close to me and fire them. Like
Mhm.
to me, it's like business is business and pleasure is pleasure. So I don't get personal with any of my staff. I don't know any of their stories, and I
Mhm.
don't want to really, for the most part. It blurs the lines.
Yeah, yeah.
However, I just sort of objectively look at this young woman who is like fucking talented. She's going to be another Jody.
Yeah.
But then I think about how is she going to balance relationships? How is she going to balance kids and family and maternity and all of that stuff and kind of being around? Um, anyway, that's her, and I don't know what her route and what her career path is, and we want to support any sort of which way. But that is the toughest thing in our relationships in our industry
Mhm.
is the fucking 5 o'clock. Everyone's taking the train home to go home, and Friday night like they're gonna just fucking chill.
Yeah.
It's like, no, man, Friday night for us is like adrenaline time,
Yeah.
and Saturday night, and then you get a snowstorm and it just fucking kills you,
Right.
right? Because if you were gonna buy a dishwasher, you'd go buy a dishwasher. But if it snows, you're not gonna buy it today. You'll buy the dishwasher tomorrow.
Mhm.
But if you're gonna go out to dinner tonight, it snows, you're not gonna be like, I'm gonna save this money and I'm gonna go out to dinner tomorrow night. You're gonna be like, no, I'm gonna order pizza tonight,
Mhm.
and that's it, and that's
Yeah.
like our food for the week, or whatever. So for us, it's like such, and I don't want to complain about the industry that I'm in because I love it and I thrive it, and I don't think I could ever do anything else.
Mhm.
But this is the construct of restaurants and food business, not just in America, but I'll say Europe. I don't want to say all over the world because I don't know the
Sure.
structure, but certainly in Europe, um, it's a very, 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 very tough business.
Yeah. Yeah. What I guess like as a leader, you have a lot more power than some other people in the company to put systems or anything in place to help balance those things. Like,
Mhm.
have you thought about that for your company in terms of encouraging work-life balance, for lack of a better term?
Yeah. Work-life balance is tough. I can't tell you you can go work from home today.
Yeah.
It's like you got to cook the steak.
Right. Right.
It doesn't matter how good
Yeah.
you can cook it at home. Um, but work-life balance is important for us. I think it just takes it's a slightly different definition.
Mhm.
And so, for instance, in our kitchens, you do not raise your voice.
Mhm.
You do not swear. You treat everybody with respect.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what's going on. You treat everybody with respect. So that for us is a very strong work-life balance. I don't tolerate any drinking at work. I don't care if your shift ended and you want to go to the bar, have a drink. No, no. Go to the bar across the street.
Interesting.
Because again, it can be such a slippery slope.
Yeah.
So let's keep it professional. We're here for our guests. Like, you don't see, I don't know much about Walt Disney World. Don't know anything. But I do know that you'll spend a shit ton of money to walk into a park and pretend that these cartoon characters are like real. And you're obviously going for your kids, or as an adult, you could go as well, but you're like encapsulated in this amazing experience. And that's our job, to our guests, is like create this fucking amazing experience. And like when Mickey Mouse is done with his shift, he doesn't just like take his hat off and go sit at a bar and have a drink.
Or smoke a cig, outside.
Yeah.
Well, I hear actually they're all fucking each other. They're all gay men. Apparently, I hear like a lot of and there's a lot of like
they're performers
and like this is something I heard, but but I think that kills the experience if you know that type of thing, right? And so
I will say it could be fake news.
Could be fake news. I honestly could have just made that up. I don't know.
My buddy's ex-girlfriend was Snow White, maybe.
Oh, nice.
She was some. So when she was telling the story like years ago, I was like, oh my God, like this is a fucking TV production without cameras. Like, but they're going in character. Like something about like even when they're like in the back and like wherever the employees are, as soon as you put on your suit, you have to be in character. Even before you step into the park, if you're in your suit, your costume, you got to be in character.
I really respect that. I think that it's what you're saying. It's about the guest experience, right? You don't want to see them, But I think that's great because from a work-life balance perspective, you can't just work from home. You can't just take the day off or whatever. Like, but the mental health aspect, right? That's really kind of where you're trying to
correct. Yeah. The work-life balance for us is the mental health. I think the adrenaline of the actual work is really cool. And to be honest with you, I hate this goddamn fucking work from home shit. Stop being fucking lazy. Get out of your house and go to fucking work.
Well, you live in, what is this, financial district?
Yeah.
I've heard that this place, like this area, has become almost like a ghost town, or at least was for a bit because of still. Wow.
Still.
Yeah.
And it affects everybody. Like, okay, it affects the restaurants. We get it. But it affects MBTA ridership. Right, so your tax dollars are now subsidizing the MBTA even more, right? Because there's no ridership. People are now working 3 days a week. So before they take the train 5 days a week, and now that they're going to the office 3, they're like, "Fuck it, I'm not going to take the train. I'm just going to drive. I'll sit an extra half an hour in the car, whatever it is." But your local dry cleaner, the local like little bodega that sells like M&Ms and Advil, like around the corner, like they're supported by this daytime traffic. The shoe cobblers, all of that stuff is like. Gone. I mean, hopefully there's sort of a resurgence. So I as you saw, I just literally came back from Manhattan. I feel like Manhattan's like back to 5 days plus in the office. Nice. And I hear that. I mean, my designers are in the office 5 days a week.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. Work-life balance is crazy.
Yeah.